Hello, hi and welcome to today's class on English for Banking. And this is Deepa. We met yesterday and I hope you had a chance to watch Hash Talks with Bhavish Agarwal, the CEO and founder of Ola yesterday. Okay, so let's start with today's class. And as always, I have a book in mind to share with the class. Okay. So the book I have in mind today is J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Okay, so this is a book that's very informally written. Okay, it's about an 18-year-old who drops out of school, and if you look at the time frame, it's something that describes the events of his life right after he comes out of school. The next 3 or 4 days, that's about it. Okay, so it deals with teenage rebellion, the idea of, okay, fine, what am I going to do next? Okay, so the conundrums of his life in that particular phase are very well established, very well discussed throughout the book. Okay, so in a lot of schools, the book is actually abolished. Abolished from the library shelves for several reasons. You'll figure it out when you read the books. It kind of plants the idea of rebellion in certain minds. Okay. Which is probably why formal education systems do not really approve the book. Nevertheless, it's a classic. Okay, so that is the book of the day, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Salinger has also written other books like Franny and Zoe. So if you are, interested in religion, lack of faith, atheism, you can catch that as well also. Okay, so we start with today's class. Before that, of course, we do a recap of the previous class. Yesterday, we did synthesis of sentences, which is nothing but combining sentences. Okay. Then we saw direct and indirect objects. I gave you a fine example, a quote by Groucho Marx. I shot an elephant in my pajamas. Okay. So if you remember that phrase, a lot of things become very simple. What to do, what not to do with sentence framing. Okay. And then we saw clause versus phrase. So we go to what you got wrong from the last CPP. We did a few collective nouns, if I remember right, in one of my previous classes. Okay, and we saw that murder is a group of crows. Okay, I also attempted to make a very lame joke, if I remember right. What do you call two crows hanging out? An attempted murder. Okay. Nevertheless, then, gaggle. Okay, so geese, a group of geese. Okay, geese is the plural form of goose, by the way. Okay. This is a gaggle of geese. Then you have dolphin. A group of dolphins is a pod. So there is a strict classification in the animal family as well. Dolphins and whales are mammals. They form pods, while fish, they form schools. Okay, a school of fish, a pod of dolphins. Then wolf is actually a pack. You call it a pack of wolves. Okay. Then cat and litter. I totally understand why quite a few have gone for cat is too bitter. Now when a cat gives birth, okay, that lot. So cats give birth in multiples, correct? So it's not just one kitten. It's called a litter of kittens. Okay, so A, this is bitter, not litter, and its own a litter of cats is to do with small cats, you know, just borns, infants. Um, so D is your correct answer. This is analogous to lion is to pride. A pride of lions. A group of lions is called a pride of lions. Okay. Next, goals for this class, we see in detail subject-verb agreement, which is one of the very important parts of your grammar exercises. A lot of your questions will be based on subject-verb agreement. Then we'll see pronoun antecedent agreement and pronoun reference error. Okay, so we start with verb agreement. For your convenience, I have tried to you know, explain the entire concept only with examples. Okay, now I can tell you, hey, you know what, this plural form will take this noun and this verb and all that, but I feel that if I give you examples and then discuss, it's an easier task. Now, a quick intro to subject-verb agreement. Subject-verb agreement is nothing but choosing the correct singular or plural verb after the subject. Now, you know that the basic sentence of the English language follows the SVO format, subject, verb, object. Correct? Any problem there? The verb form depends on the subject. The verb takes a form that depends entirely on the subject. Okay, so look at the first example here. The mall opens at 9. Here the mall is singular. The mall is singular. Open, that's the verb. Okay, it takes the S here. Okay, because the mall is singular. So, singular subject opens. But when you have a plural subject, okay, the malls open at 9. Okay, then look at this example, William and Harry. So, that is a plural. You're talking about two people. Okay, so that's a plural. William and Harry have invited us around. This is a plural subject. But 2 hours is a long time to wait. Now, you might argue that 2 hours, 2, that is plural. But remember that you're talking about time. Hey, that is a long time to wait. Here, time is equated to 2 hours. 2 hours of time is long to wait. Okay, that's how you process this sentence. 2 hours takes a singular verb. Okay, then wheat and maize are exported. Wheat and maize, like William and Harry, that is a plural subject. But bread and butter was all that we had. Now, bread and butter is a phrase that goes hand in hand. That's like saying pongal and chutney, fish and chips, okay, or dosa and sambar, okay. So, that goes hand in hand. This becomes one entity. So, what are the other such entities that we talk about? I told you of 2 or 3, fish and chips, idli sambar, okay, then anything else? I can say black and white is a wonderful combination. Okay, now black and white, I'm not treating that as 2 separate entities, it becomes one entity. Okay. Next, either Thursday or Friday is okay. Now, this is something that we've seen already. When you use either or, okay, now each of these is singular, Thursday, Friday. So, this takes again a singular form, the verb, okay. Then, either my sister or the neighbors, here confusion arises, okay. Now, hi Nikita Singh, by the way, good morning, how are you? Alright, so either my sister or the neighbors are looking after the dog. Now you might figure out that there is a confusion happening here. Neighbors is plural while sister is singular. Okay, and only one of these is going to be the answer. Okay, if you look at it that way. Now in this case, look at whatever is closest to the verb. In this case, it's neighbors, that's plural. We go for are. Okay, so the nearest subject, nearest part of the subject, that tells you what verb form to use. Then there is the next example. 10 miles is too far to walk. Okay, then 30 pounds seem a reasonable price. Why is 10 miles considered singular? Any answers to that? Now look at this. To walk 10 miles is too far. Okay, now the 10-mile part, okay, forms one entity, that is the length, that distance to be covered. Okay, so it is seen as one entity even though it is expressed in plural form. Similarly, 30 pounds seems a reasonable price for this blazer. Okay, so look at it this way, the blazer will cost you 30 pounds. A lot of places, I'll give you one example, one tip here. Whenever the object comes first, okay, then you need to figure out if it's going to be it's going to be singular or plural. Okay, that is where most things go wrong. In this example, look at this. The shirt is going to cost you 30 pounds. 30 pounds is the cost of the shirt. Okay, I can put it that way, or I can say the normal form of this sentence is the price of this shirt is 30 pounds. Okay, now I can bring the object first and say 30 pounds is the price of this shirt. Okay, you get it? So if you put it in the normal form, then you'll figure out that the shirt is priced blah blah blah. Okay, not exactly 30 pounds, that becomes the subject. Okay, in this case, yes, 30 pounds is seen as one currency unit. Okay, one monetary unit, not currency unit. Okay, now look at this. Star Wars was a very successful film franchise. Wars, yes, it is plural, but you're talking about a single franchise, single series of movies, the Star Wars. Okay, then the Rose and Crown is that old pub by the river. This is the name of a single pub, even though it might have and in between, okay, conjunction in between. The entire thing is the name of a single pub. Okay, for example, Marks and Spencer. Okay, Marks and Spencer is my favorite brand. Okay, so in that case again, Marks and Spencer is my favorite, not are my favorite, because it's only one brand. Okay, then George, together with some of his friends, is buying a racehorse. Pro tip here, whenever you have a sentence that has two commas, okay, so in this case you you have one comma after George here, then you have one after friends. Try reading the sentence without this part. George is buying a racehorse. Does that part make any sense? Grammatical sense, contextual sense? Okay, that is what you need to figure out. Okay, now this is not always the case, by the way. Okay, now look at this. George, together with some of his friends. You talk about George, then append something to George. Even in that case, it is going to be George is buying the house, not the friends plus George. Contextually, yes, meaning yes, but this is the form that the verb takes. Okay, we consider only George as the subject. Whatever comes between these two commas becomes a modifier for George. Got it? Any problem there? Okay, so this is not part of the subject, it is a modifier for the subject. Okay, any problem there? Then the kitchen and of course the dining room. Here you have it in braces. Okay, so the entire thing is in braces. This again is very similar to the previous example where the kitchen is being modified or you give some additional information. Okay, the subject is still the kitchen only. The kitchen faces due west. So this is treated as a singular subject only. We recommend that the pupil receive a special award. I believe that we have done the subjunctive in the past. Okay, recommend is a subjunctive here. What? The verb that follows the subjunctive, in this case it's receive, will always take the base form or the root form. Okay, remember that it cannot be, we recommend that the pupil receives a special award. Now, if you consider this phrase, this clause alone, the pupil receive a special award, it's grammatically incorrect. You would ideally say the pupil receives a special award, but that's not the case here because of the subjunctive. If you have a subjunctive, the verb that follows the subjunctive has to be in the base form or the root form. Now, this again is a very oft repeated mistake. So, please remember your list of subjunctives. Off the top of my head, I can tell you that there is, of course, recommend, command, demand, suggest. I suggest you do this. I demand that he do that. I would mandate that the populace do this, not does this. Okay, so you get the idea. So recommend, suggest, demand, command, words like these are subjunctives. Then look at this, the window was broken, the windows were broken. Here we deal with past tense. Okay, now look at this, if the story were true. Okay, now if you are looking at these conditions, number one, story were true. Okay, so it's in the past and there is no certainty, there is only probability. In that case, if the story were true. Okay, now so there is this anecdote that I recall, I read this somewhere. Okay, so there is this grammar Nazi mother, okay, who's raising her child, right? And the child says out of frustration, Mom, you know what, if I was dying, you would correct my grammar. The mom, without missing a beat, says, child, the right grammatical structure is, if I were dying, you would correct my grammar. If I were dying, you would correct my grammar. Okay, so remember, if you're talking about past and there is a certain degree of probability associated, it is were true. Okay, if the story were true, what would it matter? How would it matter? Okay, then not only George but also his friends are buying the house. Now in this case, I've told you that whenever you use not only but also should figure in the sentence. Okay, now so the subject here is George and his friends. Then are comes into the picture. So the verb here takes the plural form. Then George, my neighbor, often goes to the races. Now we call this apposition. Okay, I am saying George, okay, I'm introducing George and then say, you know what, George is my neighbor. Okay, so it's not that I'm talking about two people, George and my neighbor. George is my neighbor. Okay, so that's the import of this sentence. George, my neighbor. So your subject is only one, it's singular. George often goes to the races. Now here again, I told you, whenever you have two commas in a given sentence, try reading the sentence without what is between the commas, correct? So I strike this out. George often goes to the races. Here there is absolutely no confusion, correct? So try to follow these tips and tricks to understand what is grammatically correct. Okay, now look at this. The house between the two bungalows is empty. Now the subject of this sentence is not two bungalows, it is the house. So between the two bungalows is something that modifies your subject. Okay, the house is empty, and then you say which house? Oh, the one between the two bungalows. So do not let the two bungalows confuse you and go for a plural verb. Through the trees is the quickest way. Now I told you, always try framing the same sentence in the normal form, active voice. Okay, now how would the normal active voice for this particular sentence be? Nikita, would you like to hazard a guess here? Okay, so the house between, through the trees is the quickest way. The active voice for this would be the quickest way is through the trees, correct? Here again, the subject is not through the trees, it's the quickest way, okay? The quickest way, you assign that to through the trees. So quickest way is what is associated with the verb here. The verb takes singular form. So whenever you have a doubt, remember to put it in normal active voice first. Then opening my presents was exciting. Now how would you put this in the normal form? It was exciting to open my presents. Okay, so opening my presents, the gerund part, or the act of opening my presents, that's what I'm talking about, right? So it's a singular act. So that was exciting, not are exciting. Then a great attraction are the antique shops in the old part of the town. Now here again, how would you put this in active voice? The antique shops are a great attraction in the old part of the town, correct? So now you figure that the antique shops and are go hand in hand. Any problem here? Even if you say a great attraction, now remember all the antique shops put together form one great attraction, okay? That is why this is a great attraction, and then antique shops are, that is plural, shops are plural. The pupils each have to take a test. So when you have each, automatically you talk about one student, each student. So have the students take a test. The student has to, the pupils each have to take a test. So in this case it takes have. Who knows the answer? Okay, who, okay, whenever you have a question, remember that you will find the answer or the right form easier if you try to answer the question. Who knows the answer? Ravi knows the answer, okay, so knows. Now you can also argue, you can say Ravi and Ram know the answer. That's also a very, what do you call, suitable answer. In that, typically the first answer that comes to your mind is generally, taken as the, your mind works in a certain fashion because it's been trained to do so for a long, long time. Subconsciously, we have figured that something is right, especially when it comes to language, but we don't really sit and think about why it's right. That's the problem with us. Okay, so something sounds right and then we follow it. This is also the problem with, the popularization of incorrect grammatical phrases. For example, a lot of people today try saying, I can't able to do this. Well, it riles me for some reason. It's entirely wrong, of course. But because it's so popular, people tend to believe that it is right. So today when someone says, I can't able to do this, he says it very confidently because he hears it elsewhere as well. Okay, so the right form is, he is unable to do it, I am unable to do it, I can't do it. Don't club both, can't and able, don't do it ever, please. Okay, what has happened? This has happened. Okay, so whenever you have a question, try answering the question. What or which day is convenient? Okay, so here again the answer to this is singular. You go with is. Which days are convenient? Well, Fridays and Saturdays are very convenient. Are. Which of these sweaters goes best? The answer again is one, so the verb takes the singular form. Which of these shoes go best? Okay, because shoes are typically spoken about in pairs. We'll look at pair nouns a little while later. None of the pupil has or have failed the test. In this case, both are acceptable. Okay, then I don't know if either of these batteries is or are any good. So these are exceptions. Okay, no pupil has failed, then no pupils have failed. Then after there, the verb agrees with its complement. There, this we call the existential element. Existential there, or it. You can say it was a disaster. Okay, instead of saying a disaster happened. Okay, then there was a cat. So there is some form of existential context that you try to bring into the sentence. In that case, we call this existential element. Okay, there was an accident. There were some accidents. Okay, so try putting these sentences in the more normal way. An accident happened. Some accidents occurred. Okay, so you can figure out the verb form from the base or normal way of putting things across. Take the existential part out of it. Try framing the sentence your own way. You'll figure it out. Okay. Then we come to number. Okay, one of these letters is for you. So what do you actually mean? One letter is for you. Forget of these letters. In some way, one, you use this part to modify one. Okay, so one is for you. That's it. So this is singular. A large number of letters were received. Okay, now we look at number. When you talk about the number and a number, there is a huge difference. So a number means more than one. A number of letters were received. This is plural, meaning more than one letter was received. But when you talk of the number, for example, the number of students taking IBPS PO this year is significantly more than the number of students who took it up last year. Okay, so in this case, I'm saying maybe last year 1 lakh students took the test. This year 1.5 lakh students take the test. Okay, so this is a specific number, a numeral that I have in mind, and this is singular. Any problem here? Nikita, any problems? Okay, next. A lot of people have complained. Okay, the majority of people have complained. Now, in this case, the majority of people, is it singular or plural? Anyone? So, this fraction, okay, the majority, that takes have, okay. So, typically in these cases, a lot of people, the majority, that's considered plural, okay. Then look at this, the number of letters we receive is increasing, singular. The number, I'm saying 4, 5, 6, 4 is the number of letters that I have received, okay. A large amount of money was collected. This is singular. Money is singular, okay. Large amounts of money were collected. If you say amounts of money, then several amounts, okay. That takes plural form. Then almost half the plants were killed, okay. So, all of this have to do with fractions and they have their own set of rules, okay. Every pupil has to take a test, singular, okay. Each day was the same, singular again. So, all of these talk about singular subjects. Now, we come to the previous class contest question. So, yesterday we dealt with phobias, correct? Phobia is fear, okay. Now, if you have triskaidekaphobia, it is the fear of the number 13, okay. So, Western world deals, says the number 13 is inauspicious, okay. So, after the film Omen was released, 666 is also considered a demonic number, okay. Then, somniphobia. Som is the root word for sleep, okay. What is insomnia? Anyone? Insomnia is the lack of sleep. If you suffer from a disease, it's more of a mental psychological disorder, not exactly a disease, where you find it very hard to fall asleep. You have insomnia, okay. So, som is the root word for sleep. So, somniphobia is the fear of falling asleep. Venustrophobia. Venus is the god of beauty, okay. So, you've always heard of this phrase, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. That probably says how different the genders of the same species are, okay. So, there is also a book by that name, a very light read, you can probably give it a shot, okay. So, it's quite interesting, try it out. Venustrophobia is the fear of beautiful women, okay. So, that is the answer. The answer is A, 3, B, 1, C, 2, okay. And I hear that none of you got it right. Why? Okay. So, try figuring out the meanings of words from the roots, okay. So, the correct answer is this. B is the correct answer. Now, I have a similar question today. We move to our contest time on manias. Go ahead. All the best. There are some words that take only the plural form, goods, belongings, clothes, congratulations, earnings, goods, odds, outskirts, particular, okay. So, these always take plural form, There is no one good, there is no one belonging. Okay, congratulations, that's always plural. Okay, so the annals of history. Okay, so and then yeah, the outskirts of the city, particulars of that document. Okay, so these words are always in plural. There is no one good. It's always goods, goods received. Then, I hurt my arms and legs. Okay, so in this case, I mean this arm, I hurt my arm. But when I say the armament, arms, then I talk about weapons. That again is always in plural. Okay, then customs, to go through customs. You know what, the customs department took my iPhone away, saying it was illegally obtained inside the country. Okay, so this again is always in plural. When you say manner in which it was done, then you mean way in which it was done. But when you talk about manners, etiquette, okay, so this is etiquette, manners. Okay, then the content of the message versus the contents of the box. Now, when you draft an email, okay, what goes into the body of the email is your content. Contents of the box, what is found inside the box. Okay, so these savings again, damage, damages, pain, pains. Okay, so different forms, it's almost the same word but different forms, and one is always in plural, remember. News. Now, there are some words that are in some cases taken as singular, some cases taken as plural. The news isn't very good. News, the evening news, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that is singular. Gymnastics looks very difficult. Now, you can't ever say gymnastic, correct? Mathematic, statistic. But when you talk of these as subjects, you know, academic subjects, it's always singular. But when you say these statistics are complicated, in this case you mean these numbers, these figures are complicated. Or his politics, in this case it's his political views, so they are plural. But when you talk about politics as a subject of study, it's singular. Okay. Then works, okay, chemical works. Fun fact here, you call it BMW, I call it BMW. Okay, so what is the full form of this? So if you speak about the English form, okay, BMW, by the way, is German, everyone knows that. Okay, so in German it's Bayerische or Bayerische Maschinenwerke. Okay, transliterated, it means Bavarian Machine Works. Okay, so that is shortened to BMW. Okay, so when you talk about works, okay, so this again is always considered as a plural form. Okay, it's always works and not work. Okay, so a chemical works, in this case it is a chemical factory of some sort. Okay, so it takes a singular form, causes, not cause. So these are other words, similar words. Means of income, I am at a crossroads. Okay, crossroads, I don't know which way to take. I can go here, I can go this way, that way. Okay. Then pair noun, I mentioned this earlier. Trousers, scissors, okay, always go hand in hand. Glasses, tights, leggings, okay, so these always go hand in hand. Okay, and they are always pairs. Look at it this way, trousers, leggings, glasses, Okay, so these are two of the same things attached together, correct? Scissors. Hey, my drawing skills are bad, so please don't judge me, okay? But you get it, right? I put two very similar things together, form this object. They always have a plural connotation, okay? So this pair of trousers needs cleaning, okay? In this case, pair, that is the subject, not trousers. So needs cleaning and not need cleaning, okay? Jeans again, okay? Similar analogy, it's always plural. Then we've already done collective noun, so this is a very quick recap. A crowd of people was in a cheerful mood. Okay. Now, there are some cases where it can take singular and plural forms. Team, for example, when you talk of the entire team as one unit, you say a team. Okay. But when you talk about this particular context, the team are quite fragmented in their views. In that case, I mean the individual team members. Okay, so they have differences in opinion. Okay, in that case, when I say the team, it is plural. Garment again can take singular or plural form based on its context. Crowd we've already seen. Okay, the class, union. The class doesn't understand what the teacher is saying. Okay, in this case it is singular, don't, made up of individual class members. Okay, so these are other such words that can take singular or plural forms. Now look at this, the schools have a career advisor. When I say the schools have a career advisor, it means several schools share a career advisor. When I say the schools have careers advisors, it means each school has its own advisor or advisors. Okay. Now we come to pronoun antecedent agreement. Okay. Now I can use the precedent. Okay. So this is the subject. I've introduced him and then say delivered his address. This is the pronoun. So clearly I can use a pronoun here because I have already introduced a subject. Okay. The students put forth their grievances. In this case it means the students' grievances. Both the teachers resolved their differences. This means the teachers' differences. Phelps won his 8th gold. Here again, okay, the his means Phelps's. Then there is a pronoun reference error. Remember one rule very clearly. If you have not introduced a person, you cannot use he, she, no. The pronoun for that noun cannot be used. In this case, Kumle's record was unbroken until last year. When I look into this clause, I can see that I have not introduced Kumle the man, I have only introduced Kumle's record. The subject is this. I cannot use he here because I haven't introduced Kumle. Okay, so this is entirely wrong. Okay. So the ideal way of putting this forth would be Kumle's record was unbroken until last year, okay, and Kumle was touted to be the greatest spinner of his times. Or I can say Kumle created a record which was unbroken until last year and he was touted to be the greatest spinner of his times. Okay. So we come to the summary. We did subject verb agreement today, pronoun antecedent agreement, pronoun reference error. So we come to the close of our class today. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Now, passport members, please jump in to do your CPP. The CPP is open only to passport members, and it is a set of 10 questions very carefully curated by your experts, okay, that kind of reflect whatever we've studied today in class. Okay, so if you if you've gone through the entire class, you would be conceptually equipped to do the CPP questions. So please go ahead, CPPs, you can share it with others. Please go ahead, do that, and let us know how you felt it was. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Bye.